You use dating apps and you hate them. Guys who match with you are icky. Guys who text you are either too passive or too aggressive. Guys who seem interested disappear. Guys who seem normal send dick pics. What the fuck? I might not be able to change what men do on Tinder or Bumble, but I can explain why dating apps will always produce behavior like this and how you can do better. Stick around. I'm Marc Katz, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women and your personal trainer for love. Welcome to the Love You podcast. Keep listening to learn why men act so horribly on dating apps. When we're done, I'll let you know how you could apply to Love You to create a passionate relationship that makes you feel safe, heard, and understood. So, dating apps are not going anywhere. I've done a bunch of Love You podcast episodes about dating apps. I know that I am often perceived to be a dinosaur because I haven't wholeheartedly embraced dating apps. I come from a world where the mainstream dating sites were Match.com and OkCupid. It was a pre-cell phone world. And I know we're not going to go back in time, and I know we're not going to put the genie back in the bottle. And I know some of this sounds like I could be an old man ranting on the get off my lawn. At the same time, let's recognize that all good qualities come with bad qualities. What's good about real life? Oh, we love meeting people in real life. Well, when you meet people in real life, you go out to a bar with a couple of guys, a couple of girls, you do a lap, you see who's cute. Maybe you have a conversation with one person that night, and maybe you get a phone number. You spend $70, you might get one phone number, and that's a night. Now, it's fun and it's social, but that's an example of strengths and weaknesses. So now we've gone to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and we've got photos that we swipe on based on looks, and then we send a couple of one-line texts, and then we meet total strangers for dates, and then we complain that it's not working. So let's talk about how we got here. Online dating apps are a breeding ground for bad behavior. And I say this almost agnostically because I don't think that this is uniquely men's problem. I mean, women swipe left as much as men swipe right. So men are swiping right on 100% of women for game theory to give themselves the most opportunity. And women don't like anybody and let a very small number of guys through. But even then, there's too many guys who come through. So we have this really high volume problem. And I try not to judge the people involved. I judge the medium itself. Dating apps are not a great medium, and they breed bad behavior. But it's the nature of it because it's high volume and low quality interaction. So we talked about meeting at a bar, theoretically at a party. That's a high quality interaction. You and me, we have a conversation for an hour, I get your phone number at the end. That's the ideal. Well, that's not the way it works here. So why does this medium suck, and why do guys act the way they do? And we'll stick with just the guys. It's much easier to lay blame on men than to take personal blame yourself. I will let you extrapolate from this. Here's why guys act bad on dating apps. Number one, I think people are conflict averse. You're conflict averse. How do I know you're conflict averse? Because it's far easier for you to ignore a guy's texts than it is for you to tell him, hey, Brad, it was nice getting to know you. I don't feel the connection necessary to take this relationship to the next level. No hard feelings. You're a great catch. You're going to make some woman really happy one day. Best of luck in your search. You don't send that text out. You don't send that email. You just ignore his texts. Not because you're a bad person, but because you're conflict averse. Men, too, are conflict averse. So if they swipe right on a whole bunch of people, do you really expect that these men are then going to write you a polite rejection letter explaining that he found some other person that he feels more connected to, or that he went on a great third date with someone else and he's going to abandon his pursuit of you? No, because people tend to hide. On dating apps, it is largely still anonymous, even if your face is on there. We tend to assume that there is no harm, no foul, and so we treat everybody like crap. We just, we're having swiping and texting conversations, and then we just drop it. So that's nice people potentially being conflict averse. Next, we have people who are genuinely cowards. Right? Because there's a difference between, all right, I swiped, I texted a couple times, and I'm going to focus my energies elsewhere. And then there's someone who's been going out with you for really, really, 5 dates over the course of close to 1 month, who suddenly ghosts you. Now we've gotten past conflict-averse into coward territory. And why do people feel they can do this? Because online dating apps in particular, different than a party or a bar, make everybody feel like they have infinite options. We're always comparing people side by side. If I got a phone number at a party, I'm not spending too much time thinking about getting a second phone number at that party. When you're on here, phone numbers are endless. It is literally the equivalent of writing your phone number on a bathroom wall and saying for a good time call. That is how easy it is to procure someone's phone number, which is why it devalues that phone number. If a guy could collect 20 phone numbers over dinner, how special can you be? How important can you be to him? How much could you have distinguished yourself to him? And so sometimes guys, selfishly, foolishly, take you down this primrose path, and suddenly you start to feel really excited, like he's your guy, and you think that you're almost boyfriend, girlfriend, and then silence. Why? Because he doesn't have to see you, because you're basically a phone person, because you're a face on a website, and because he has infinite number of options and he never has to be held accountable. So it inspires cowardly behavior. Next, on online dating apps, men and women, specifically women, but we're going to talk about men, have infinite options. And when you have infinite options, it makes it harder to make choices. There's a wonderful book called The Paradox of Choice. I got married because of the book, The Paradox of Choice. It remains the same, but even worse. When we have too many choices, it's virtually paralyzing. It's hard to make a good choice. It's hard to have the proper information to make a good choice. And on a dating app, how much information do you actually have? You have a photo and you have like a one-line bio for the most part. You have so limited information, so it becomes so looks-based. And we know intellectually, yeah, sure, looks matter. Of course looks matter. It's what gets you in the door. But we also know that if we're competing against everybody else on looks, there's always going to be some guy who's cuter. And the competition is intensely fierce on these dating apps. And there's always going to be someone who seems to be more appealing. So if you and he see dating in this light, I'm going to have dinner, I'm going to watch TV, I'm going to swipe right on anybody that I think is cute. And he's swiping on 50% of women because he sees 50% of women attractive. And you swipe on less than 5% of men because you see less than 5% of men attractive. And this is pretty normal, by the way. What's going to happen? He's going to get rejected by 95% of women. But by swiping on 50% of women, it's going to give him a ton of options. And because men swipe on 50% of women, you're going to have a lot of guys who match with you who are not particularly interested in you. They just think that you're passably attractive to potentially make a dating app-based match. So the qualifications, the stakes are so very low. It is like throwing a dart at a dartboard. It doesn't really mean anything. And so this informs all the behaviors. If both men and women have infinite number of options, think about what that makes everybody feel like. It makes us all feel disposable. Just like if you're working in an HR department and you have a stack of resumes and you got one job. These are human beings, but you can't interview 100 human beings to fill this one position. You have to discriminate, really keep high standards if you've got one job for 100 applicants. And that's sort of what happens in online dating. Everybody has infinite options. And then everybody complains that they feel dismissed, discredited, not given a chance. And it's the nature of the medium. There's no way around it. The next thing I wanted to bring up was the paradox of choice. This is another reason that guys act horribly online. Because we are forced to make what would seem to be important decisions about dating, relationships, love, based on so little information, really. A photo and a couple lines in a bio and a couple of one-liner texts, and we're trying to figure out if there's a connection. The medium creates a problem where you can't really tell a connection. We reward looks, we reward flash, we reward class, we reward wit, but it says nothing about anything as to whether this person's going to be a good date or a good partner or is emotionally available. We can't unearth that information. What it is a meeting machine. How quickly can we meet? So it sacrifices quality for quantity and speed. When men are faced with the paradox of choice literally is the more choices you are, the less happy you are. To me, that sums up dating apps. The more choices, everybody's less happy. Not that we're going to go back to a world where, if you're the high school cheerleader, you dated the high school football player in your town of 150 and that was a better world. We're not suggesting that's a better world. We're suggesting somewhere between marrying the quarterback in a town of 150 people and swiping right on 1,000 guys and keeping your fingers crossed. There's probably something in the middle that works better than that. And that's usually what I try to teach in Love You, is how to make the most of these dating apps and these dating sites. And the next reason that guys are terrible when it comes to dating apps, and again, it's not unique to men, is that there's no consequences for their behavior. Right? This never comes back to bite them. There are not Yelp ratings for guys, right? And if there were Yelp ratings for guys, they would probably be unfair too. Because just because a guy swiped left on you or went out with you on a first date and didn't want to see you again, doesn't mean he's a jerk, and doesn't mean he's a player, and doesn't mean he's a liar. It just means he wasn't interested in you, the same way that you swipe left on the majority of guys. So that's why they don't have these kind of ratings on these sites. Every dating site has thought of it, but it's too biased by people's emotions. So we're left in this really wild west of no consequences. That's what social media and dating apps are like. It's just a whole bunch of photos and a whole bunch of people looking attractive and a whole bunch of people writing comments and trying to distinguish themselves from the hordes of other people writing comments. It's a dissatisfying way to date because it has no depth. It feels like this mad scramble because it is this mad scramble, and nobody's really held accountable to their behaviors. There's not a reward always for being a good person, for acting with integrity, for slowing down, for trying to get to know someone. In fact, sometimes those behaviors are penalized. Right? When you try to distinguish yourself, when you try to have a better conversation, when you try to talk on the phone, all things that I recommend. Right? Sometimes people penalize you because you're not playing by the rules. The rules are swipe right, text, emoji, meet, which leads to a subpar dating experience for just about everybody. So your takeaway from this podcast, this explanation as to why men act horribly online, which is not going to change dating apps or men or anything, right? We're just observing it as it is, right? As long as you participate in it, you will continue to experience those symptoms. My recommendations for you are: use conventional dating sites like Match.com and OkCupid, where they have written profiles, emails that you could write before you have to worry about going to the phone. Right? The more time you take to screen someone prior, the more they have invested in you, even if it's just a couple days of back and forth. It's better than swiping on a photo, sending someone one text, and then keeping your fingers crossed. Whether you believe that or not, I've had enough people tell me how much they hate dating apps and how they text 100 people and everybody flakes out and disappoints them, or they go on blind dates with total strangers that they barely know because they just rush through the process. We're trying to have a screening process the same way that an HR department would have a screening process before hiring someone. Next, if you're not going to do old school online dating, and I don't think most of you will, I recommend that you use this medium to make it better. Right? The same way that if I'm talking to someone at a party, I'm going to want to have a conversation with her for an hour before I ask for her phone number. Online dating, we just go for the kill. Hey, you're hot. What's your phone number? And then we're surprised that people don't really feel connected to us. Well, we haven't done any bonding first. We haven't made any connection first. So the more you can make a connection with someone, if it's writing longer texts that seem more conversational and using those texts to schedule a phone call, just a FaceTime, right, as your first date prior to actually going on a date, that in and of itself will save you a lot of bad first dates and a lot of wasted time texting. Because would you rather go on one date a week with a guy you spoke to on FaceTime, or would you rather text 30 guys, right, like pretty randomly and keep your fingers crossed? I know what I'd choose. And the last thing, and again, not to be too sobering about it, if you're going to continue to date the way that you're dating prior to this podcast, if you're going to just keep on watching TV, eating dinner, swiping on guys, sending one-line texts, and meeting total strangers for dates, you're going to have to lower your expectations of what online dating and online dating apps are going to give to you. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. You have every right to complain that dating apps suck and men suck and suck. You can complain all you want and your complaints are valid until you do something differently. you're going to get the same results. I am here for you if you want to get different results, to have better conversations with better men who are more serious about relationships. That is why I exist for you. My name is Marc Katz. Thanks for tuning into the Love You podcast. For more episodes like this on YouTube, click on the subscribe button, ring the bell, and choose all to get notified when new content comes out. And if you want a man who makes you feel safe, heard, and understood, go to www.evanmarckatz.com. Click the button to watch my free video about how you can fix your broken man picker. When you're done, apply to Love You to join other smart women in a coaching community where you finally get the unconditional love that you deserve. I will see you there. Take care.